everyone, and welcome to Youth Positively Speaking. My name is Paige Ewing, and I work at Prevention Resources as the multimedia specialist for Positive Youth. Prevention Resources is a nonprofit located in New Jersey that is dedicated to promoting health and wellness of individuals, family, and community through education, collaboration, advocacy, and treatment. As always, I have with me Erin Cohen, the project coordinator of Positive Youth, and my co-host.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin, and the Positive Youth Initiative focuses on building countywide capacity to reduce substance misuse for youth ages 9 to 20 here in Hunterdon County.
So today we are joined by our two featured youth members, Sabi and Jasmine. So welcome, Jasmine. Welcome back to the podcast. You've been here before, but why don't you introduce yourself for people who might not know you?
Hi, my name is Jasmine. I was on the podcast talking about alcohol, and I'm a rising senior. I'm also a strong advocate against marijuana usage.
Awesome. We're super excited to have you. And also welcome, Sabi. Please introduce yourself as well.
Hi guys, my name is Sabi and I'm also an upcoming senior. In my free time, I love to be an advocate against big tobacco, like Jasmine said.
Well, we are super excited to have you both here. I know that you're very involved with, your local YABs and councils and stuff like that. So today we are very, very excited to be joined by a very special guest named Laura. Laura Stack is the founder and CEO of Johnny's Ambassadors, which was formed in 2020 after her 19-year-old son, Johnny, died by suicide after years of using potent marijuana dabs. And Johnny's Ambassadors works together to educate parents and teens about the dangers of today's high THC marijuana, on adolescent brain development, mental illness, suicide. But prior to all her advocacy work, Laura was also a 30-year award-winning professional speaker, spokesperson. She was the author of 8 best-selling productivity books, and she also has a brand new book that just came out a few weeks ago called The Dangerous Truth About Today's Marijuana. So welcome, Laura, to the podcast. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Paige and Sabi and Jasmine. I'm excited to talk with you and hear some of your questions. And thanks, Erin, for the invitation. Yes, my son very sadly died by suicide. I live in Colorado, which was the first state to legalize recreational marijuana in 2012 when Johnny was 12 years old. And when it was commercialized in 2014, he was a freshman in high school. And he had a friend whose brother was 18 and had just gotten his shiny new medical marijuana card, which here in Colorado, when you're 18, you can go to what we call the pot shop doc. And you can tell the doc you have some mysterious ailment, perhaps a migraine or a backache, and you are given a red card, which means that at 18 years old, you can go to a dispensary and legally buy shatter. And you can buy so much from as many dispensaries as you want because it's not tracked. And then you go back to the high school and then you sell it to all of the other kids. So sadly, it has become kind of a rite of passage here in Colorado. And Johnny got scooped up in that. He came home from his first high school party when weed was legalized and said that so-and-so's brother had marijuana and that they had used it. They all wanted to try to get high. Now, you do need to understand, we never condoned this as parents. It's not like we allowed it. I grew up in a very strict military family. We have 2 other children who did not use marijuana. We did not allow it under any condition. In fact, we told our kids that marijuana, our word would eat your brain cells and make you stupid. So we didn't allow it. And Johnny, for the next 5 years until he was 19, we battled treatments and medications and another suicide attempt and mental hospitals and doctors and medicines and everything that we could do to try to help him. And 3 days before he died, we were having dinner and he said, "Mom, I just want you to know that you were right." And I said, "Right about what?" He said, "Right about the marijuana. You told me that marijuana would hurt my brain, and it has ruined my mind and my life. And I'm sorry. And I love you. And 3 days later, he was gone. Now, you do need to understand, Johnny was just your normal kid, right? He was not mentally ill. He was not self-medicating to cover up stress. He was an active volunteer in our church, in our community. He taught Sunday school with me. He played the piano. He played guitar. He had a brown belt in karate, almost a black belt. He ran cross country. He played soccer. He was just a great kid, very intelligent. People go, oh, I have straight A's, so-and-so can't be using marijuana. They have straight A's. Well, so did Johnny. He had a perfect SAT score in math, 800 out of 800. He truly was a genius in math, had a scholarship to the Colorado State University. He could have done anything that he wanted to, but slowly through the concentrated marijuana products that are available here in Colorado, which as a parent, I had no idea about, that slowly hurt his brain. And he had an acute psychotic attack, one first suicide attempt, and then stopped using marijuana and recovered. And then sadly at his next university, started using again, stopped using and recovered. He had to take an antipsychotic because he now thought that the mob was after him. We don't really have a mob here. He thought that the University of Northern Colorado was an FBI base. He thought that everybody knew everything about him and became incredibly paranoid. He then went to his third university and continued to use again after that. The marijuana is so addictive here in Colorado, and sadly, this is what you have coming in New Jersey. And you need to be aware of that it isn't the same marijuana. I'm 52, right? When I was your age, Savi and Jasmine in the 80s in high school, I know that I'm very old, I'm realizing. We had, marijuana that was like grass, right? And you would put it in these little papers and you would roll it up, and they were called joints, and you would smoke. Now, back then, in the old days, the THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, was roughly 2 to 5% if you had the good stuff. And you would pass around one joint. Like, this was not easy to get, right? And we would giggle and laugh. I actually hated it. I didn't like it at all. I just didn't like that feeling, and I didn't do it anymore after high school. But today, the chemists in Colorado have figured out, you can take that plant and you can run a solvent through it, like butane or propane or ethanol, and you can break off the trichomes of the plant, which is where all the THC is stored, and you can throw away the plant product. And now all you have left is the chemical. And they try to filter out most of the solvent, and they dry it and extract it and distill it and make it into all these products called shatter, wax, dab, crystal. Crystal, for example, if you take cocaine and make crack, right? That's what you can take marijuana and make crystalline. Crystalline can be 99.9% pure THC. It is not the same drug. It's not even a plant. It's not natural. It is a chemical. And they have figured out every way to get this to teens imaginable here in Colorado. Suppositories, kids use that before they go to school. Girls put it in tampons. It's in salad dressing. It's in soda. It's candy. And this smoking, right, flower, weed, grass has gone way down in Colorado, but the dabbing and the vaping and the edibles and the use of all of these high potency concentrates have gone way up. The problem, your brain is still forming. So when these products get into the adolescent brain, it changes the way that the brain develops. In fact, MRIs show that in youth who use marijuana, their prefrontal cortices are thinner. It disrupts the important pruning and myelination that occurs. And there are cannabinoid receptors, CB1 receptors, all throughout the brain, and CB2 receptors all throughout the immune system. So it changes your function of your mind and can actually cause mental illness. So a lot of you think, oh, it's going to help me because it's medicine, right? I can get my medical card. And this is what the marijuana industry wants you to believe, that it's healthy. Study after study after study have debunked the myths of marijuana as medicine. And there are children, yes, in Colorado who do use it. For example, grand mal seizures. It has been proven to be shown to reduce the severity of seizures in some very rare conditions. Severe autism, right? There are a couple hundred children in all of Colorado who do use it and are helped by it. This is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about teens who just want to get high and have nothing wrong with them. Like Johnny, 3,400 medical cards for youth ages 18. Suddenly, at 17 years, 364 days, these teens have developed a debilitating and chronic condition that warrants this medicine. So you can see that this is just a ploy to addict our youth. Adolescence is where addiction begins. Addiction is an adolescent onset disease. And the marijuana industry is after our teens because they want them to be addicted to these substances so that when they are 25, they are spending a lot of money. They are very expensive. And it's all about profit. And I hope that that's what our youth will start to see, that it isn't healthy, it isn't medicine, it isn't harmless, and we need to push back and communicate. Under no circumstances is any level of THC safe for the developing mind.
Laura, thank you so much for telling us a little bit about Johnny and his story and what you went through. And as a mother myself and of having teenagers myself, you know, when I read your book, I really just felt for you the entire time. And I'm so thankful that you are out educating people about it, because as marijuana is legalized in more and more states, and we're right at the beginning of it now in New Jersey, we don't have dispensaries yet, but it's coming.
It's coming.
We see that perception of harm continues to go down. And what we're trying to do is explain about how dangerous it can be, especially these high potency marijuana products that are not just a plant. We have done a whole campaign about how marijuana is not just a plant anymore. So yes. I'm so thankful that you're bringing it to the forefront and really fighting to educate people about it. So Jasmine and Sabi, I know you have some questions for Laura, and that you have looked at her website, johnny'sambassadors.org. Who wants to start first?
Yeah, so with the current legalization of marijuana in New Jersey, I know a lot of youth in my school are really curious about trying edibles, because edibles are made out to be like these sweet treats that you take some and then you feel high, and it's apparently a good feeling. So what would be your advice to teens who are curious in trying marijuana?
Well, my advice would be to delay the use of any experimentation until 25 years old for women and nearly 28 years old for men. There is no safe level of THC in an adolescent brain at all. The problem with the feel good is that is then the next thing that they chase. And from what others who have been in addiction and have recovered have told me, you never again get that feeling that you first get when you try marijuana, and that the rest of your use is always trying to get that first feel good feeling that you'll never get again. And pretty soon, guess what happens? You have to use it just to feel normal. And then you have to use more to keep from feeling terrible. And pretty soon you are addicted. And the sad thing, Jasmine, is none of your friends will know which ones will be affected by it and which ones will not. Research now shows us in peer-to-peer reviewed studies, 1 in 6 youth who try marijuana will develop a cannabis use disorder. That is literally like standing there with a loaded gun playing Russian roulette. So I would advise them to try to channel their curiosity in using marijuana into other more productive, preventive types of exploits, to get involved in church and sports and other protective factors, and to just be prepared to say no. You need to make the decision in your mind that you want to protect your brain, that you want to treat this as your BFF, because it is the only thing that you have going forward in life. Edibles are very dangerous. I could send you links to webinars that we've done with emergency room doctors who every day have teens in the emergency room with acute psychotic symptoms, with acute intoxication, with poisoning from edibles, because it's not metabolized the same way as vaping it or smoking it. And it's extremely difficult to titrate your dose. And when you use an edible, you don't feel high for quite a long time. And 30 minutes goes by, an hour goes by, and you don't feel anything. And you go, I guess I didn't take enough, and you eat more. And the psychosis can be through the roof. And children are poisoned quite often with edibles specifically. They're actually very dangerous. So that would not be something that I would advise. So share that with them and see if you can suggest an alternative activity rather than trying some edibles together.
We actually had at one of our local high schools about 2 years ago, there was a student who had some edibles, probably through the mail, and ate the entire package and had to be taken out of the school by ambulance. So
with acute symptoms onset. Yes, a dose, I even hate the term.
Like one gummy bear
is 10 milligrams, and one gummy bear is typically 50 milligrams, which is 5 doses. And I'm sorry, they don't just like eat the ear off. Okay. No. And teens don't understand. They're not experienced marijuana users. We have candy bars here in Colorado that are 1,000 milligrams. Imagine a child eating that accidentally, or not knowing it's marijuana, or ingesting more and more and more because they don't know that it has to go through their metabolism first. Extremely toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to say, firstly, thank you for sharing your story. I know it takes a lot of courage to do that. But after such heartbreak, what motivated you and pushed you to get back up on your feet and start Johnny's Ambassadors?
That is a great question. And Sabine, I'd have to say anger. I was so mad that this could even happen. How can this happen? I mean, I look back now and it's just still so incredible to me, and I know that if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. I was an involved parent. We were very active as a family. And I know if we hadn't lived in Colorado and Johnny hadn't been able to get a hold of marijuana, I believe with all my heart he would be here today. Mm-hmm. And, the whole just not knowing, I was angry at how could I not have known? And I realized that most parents have no clue about any of these substances because we grew up with grass. Right? Woodstock days, hey, love and peace, man, right? And this is a completely different drug, but no one understands it. If you're over the age of 25 right now, probably don't know what a dab is, but high schoolers do, right. College kids do, and they don't want their parents to know. So I felt incredibly naive, ignorant. I didn't know how to get help. In Colorado, it was poo-pooed. Oh, he's just addicted to weed. We couldn't get help with insurance. I didn't know where to turn. And after 6 months of being in a fetal position, basically crying because my son was dead, I got up and I said, you know what? I can lay here for the rest of my life and cry, or I can go out and I can tell people what happened and share Johnny's warning, that it ruined his mind and his life, and tell other teens just like you what Johnny said, and try to keep them from going down his path. That's because then what's the point if nothing else? I've lost my son and that's it. So I'm very passionate about this. I'm still very angry. We got legislation passed here in Colorado in 1 year. Colorado House Bill 1317 regulating marijuana concentrates for 18 to 20-year-olds. We are very proud of that. They read Johnny's story on the House floor in closing testimony, and everyone stood, and it passed unanimously through the House. So we have to keep pushing back. We have to put guardrails in place. Savi, there's so much you can do. As a teen, we had so many youth who testified at our legislature and spoke at our Senate hearings, and they stood up and they were brave, and they each got 3 minutes, and they got to say how marijuana is harming them, their community, their school, and their friends. And they were listened to. They were the most impactful witnesses that we had during that entire process. So you have power, you have strength. You can go to your legislators, your lobbyists, and you can put some guardrails in place. So don't ever just throw up your hands and think, there's nothing we can do because it's legal. There's a lot you can do, and we need very strong activists, and we need ambassadors all over the country willing to stand up and educate and speak and raise awareness, just like what you're doing. I'm so very proud of you.
Because this is happening to so many youth. It's not like Johnny was just like a 1 in a million that it happened to. I know in your book, when you were talking about some of Johnny's friends who had gotten him started with the marijuana, came back and they were talking to and apologizing. And some of them had also gone through the psychosis with this high potency THC. So it's not like just Johnny
it doesn't happen in a
happened
vacuum.
to be the one it affected.
We have hundreds now of stories that we have on our website under johnnysambassadors.org. We have Share Your THC Story. And it's so sad and shocking and appalling all at the same time, and everyone coming together to say, me too, this is real. This happened to me. We have teens, we have young adults, we have parents, grandparents, nephews, nieces. It can happen to any of us. And I think we just all have to work together to be vocal, to not be shamed, to not be silenced. There are a lot of people who want me to be quiet, and I refuse. I am going to speak the truth very loudly and not be intimidated by what we call the trolls, who want to tell me what a horrible parent I am, and that, Johnny was obviously a mentally ill child. And I mean, just things that people say to you that you just go, wow. And you know what? Block, delete, next, because I don't have time for those people. I'm going to speak the truth into people who want to hear the message, and everybody else, I don't have anything to do with them.
And I think that's something also that's so important to bring up is, it's so easy to say, oh, not me, not my child. But when we were reading your book, where you live is just like Hunterdon County. Erin was saying she was, I don't live in Hunterdon, but she was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like my backyard.
I mean, the description of the big houses and manicured lawns and nice cars. And even my husband saw the cover of the book with Johnny and was like, wow, that's a cute kid. Like, I mean, literally, he's like the all-American kid. It's the same. Yeah. We have a very similar community here, and we feel like people are not going to, not my kids, they're not going to do it. And we know that that's not the truth.
It's a lie that the marijuana industry, wants them to believe, because they want them to turn the other way when the kids say, oh, I'm just vaping, right? They want them to think, oh, it's nicotine. Well, they're actually using THC right under their nose, but they can't smell it. It's very easy to conceal. And they want the parents to be, turning a blind eye to it and just letting their kids do whatever they want. And parents need to be very actively involved. It's going to take a lot of Savis and a lot of Jasmines out there being activists, sending out press releases, being on radio shows, going and walking at the Capitol, getting bills put in place, having rallies, talking. It's going to take the teens to do it because people like me, I'm old, like,
Right.
Oh, my kid died, boo-hoo. So we need the Savis and the Jasmines to go and talk to them and have those peer-to-peer conversations. That's really where the power is going to be, because parents, I'm sorry, they do, it's just weed. I used it. And getting through to them. Sadly, some parents here in Colorado buy it for their kids. Oh my gosh, just it's trying to show them the study. Hey, if you're a mom and you use marijuana, your kid is 70% more likely to use. If you're a dad and you use marijuana, your kid is 80% more likely to use. And by the way, don't get it for them because it will help their stress. Guess what's going to happen? It's going to make them more anxious, more depressed, bring on mental illness, a 5-fold increase in psychosis, a 7-fold increase in suicidal ideation and attempts in those youth who use marijuana. It is very, very serious. And parents are so much more influential, I think, than a lot of them give themselves credit for. They think my kid doesn't listen to me. I bet Savi and Jasmine's parents are very influential in their lives and have spoken the truth into them to say, don't do it, don't use, I don't approve. And guess what, parents, if you don't say those things to your kids, they just assume that that is permission, right? You have to be very specific in saying it's not allowed. Don't get me
And the studies show that if you talk to your kids about it, they hear you. There's a whole SAMHSA campaign, talk, they hear you, because they do want to do what your parents, they do want to do what you tell them.
They do. And I think that they still, as much as they're trying to bond with friends, which is very important to them right now, you're still the most important person to them in their lives. And they know that you love them more than anyone. And we just have to be willing to have hard conversations, letting them know, hey, use me as an excuse. When you go to that next high school party and someone says, here, hit this, you can say, nah, man, my parents drug test me. You go ahead. I'm not going to do that. Have these kind of agreements with your parents. I will pick you up anywhere, anytime. No questions asked. We've got to be allies with our children and start talking to them about this at, it seems crazy, 8, 10. We have 1 out of every 10 middle school children here in Colorado using marijuana every day, 12 years old. And our suicide rates are out of this world. It is the #1 cause of death in Colorado, youth ages 15 through 19. And 36% of them at the last reading had THC in their system, not alcohol. Okay. It's so much easier to get marijuana here than alcohol.
That's frightening. That's frightening.
Oh yeah. 5 minutes, any teen, you ask any teen in high school, in 5 minutes, they can have marijuana. They know who has med cards. They know who's selling it. They all deal it on Snapchat. It's very easy to get.
When I was looking through your website, I noticed the tribute video for Johnny, and at the end there was a poem that he wrote, and I was really touched by it. And I remember this quote from it. It said, "So let's put brakes where they're supposed to go, right? I'd still probably make myself ignore it though." And when I heard those words, like the first thought that went through my head is like, do you feel like this could have been a reference to his marijuana usage and like how he couldn't stop himself from using it, like referencing like the brakes and how he would ignore them?
Yes. And in fact, when we first heard the poem, that was just 4 days before he passed. And at the time, I thought it was a clever little poem about grammar and commas and commas don't make sense. That's what periods are for, just the words in it, he was so intelligent, so brilliant that he could weave. And I'm so delighted that you saw that analogy, because we did show it to several experts in schizophrenia and psychiatrists afterward. And even the poem was titled Back Down to Earth. And so I think that it definitely was related to his marijuana usage. And I thank you for watching his tribute. It's still hard for me to watch it. I mean, he just died a year and a half later, but, spending 5 minutes learning about Johnny, I think people come away from that tribute video feeling like, that could have been my friend, that could have been the kid I sit next to in science class. He was a great kid. And I think that, the word Johnny, luckily, I think is very generic. Jasmine is Johnny. Savi is Johnny. Any one of us can be one of Johnny's ambassadors, can really go out and say, this is what happened to Johnny Stack, and it can happen to you. And I'm just so thrilled that you watched this video. And I appreciate that, because it really honors his spirit.
And I think that's a good reminder for our listeners that Johnny only passed away a year and a half ago. This is not something that happened 5 years ago, that Laura's had all this time to become this fierce anti-marijuana advocate. This happened in 2019. This just happened.
Raw. Yeah, it's still pretty raw. I try not to cry. I just, I don't care. I just try to speak up. And if I cry, oh, well, it is very emotional. It's very difficult to have lost him. I still am incredulous that it even happened. But I think we can keep other teens from following his path. I know there in New Jersey, Prevention Resources with Amanda is heading up our Stop Dabbing Walk and has a team formed. It's Sunday, September the 19th. If you go to Stop Dabbing Walk, your team is there. And Savi and Jasmine would love for you to engage your leadership, your youth, your friends, any sports teams, sign up together, come out to the walk and really support the message to stop dabbing. That's the hashtag we use, hashtag stop dabbing, because that potent concentrate is unfortunately just like big tobacco before it. It's, going to take another 60 years before people believe that it's addictive, and how many generations of our youth are we going to lose to this poison before people wake up and push back? It's just rolling over us, and it's going to take a small army to keep it at bay, sadly.
Now, having the time to reflect over a year and a half, did you notice anything different about Johnny's behavior that other parents or peers should be aware of?
That's a great question. Looking back, and I wrote about this in my book, there's a tendency, I think, for parents to believe that it's normal teen behavior, right? I think we've been programmed that teens are moody, teens are sullen, teens sleep a lot, all of these things that you kind of think, wow, I guess he's just being a teen and he'll get through it. He'll be normal again when his brain kicks in. And a lot of the things looking back that we saw, there's some obvious physical ones that we would know when he was stoned, your typical stereotype of a stoner, when they're high. And plus, the bloodshot eyes and the slurred speech and all of that. But it was more just over the years as he was using the giving up activities that used to give him joy, the withdrawal from friends, the more isolating himself, being in his bedroom alone more than he was, very social before this, wanting to sleep a lot. And I didn't know he was sleeping off, being high. Of course, it stays in your blood for 3 weeks. So it takes a lot for that to leach out of your system. Mysterious stomach aches. Of course, I didn't know about cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, CHS, which is uncontrolled vomiting that you can get using these concentrates. In Colorado, they finally call it scromiting in the emergency room because the kids come in screaming and vomiting. I didn't understand what these mysterious stomach aches were. So I think once we can teach some of the signs and symptoms of this, and we have built at Johnny's and Breath Ambassadors an online curriculum for marijuana training. It's 8 modules. You can start and stop. We have a teen version and an adult version. It takes about 90 minutes. And we give a teen $20 if they complete it. We will send them a Target gift card for completing our online curriculum, because we believe that strongly in educating. And Johnny's Ambassadors all over the world donate to that fund so that teens can get their $20 marijuana usage, gift card for taking the marijuana usage curriculum. So if you go through that prevention curriculum and send your certificate in, we'll happily send you a gift card.
And I just want to say thank you so much, Laura, from coming on, for teaching us so much information. I mean, obviously, you're so passionate about this, and it comes from a horrible, horrible thing. But I hope, the Colorado bill, that's a wonderful thing that came out of it that'll protect so many youth. And I really hope that as New Jersey, even our Cannabis Regulatory Commission has not released what that's going to look like, but it is coming out in August. I don't know when this episode's coming out, so the new laws might be out already, and we just have to see. And before those come out, we have to make sure that our voices are heard, our youth voices are heard, parents' voices are heard. That we want to protect our youth, and we want to protect their brains.
And I would ask Jasmine and Savi to go to our website, johnnysambassadors.org/graphics. We have badges there for the teens that says, I am one of Johnny's ambassadors. And we would ask for you to use that in Instagram, on your social, and encourage people to learn about Johnny just as you have, and to be educated and come out for our walk, because it's going to take a lot of ambassadors sharing Johnny's story for this message really to be heard. And the teens are the very best ways to do it.
Absolutely. Well, so for our listeners, for more information about Johnny's Ambassadors, please visit their website at johnnysambassadors.org. And of course, look up their hashtag Stop Dabbing Walk, which is on September 19th, correct?
Yes, stopdabbingwalk.com, and your team is there, and you can register as either starting your own team if you want to do it for your school, or just register as a participant.
And of course, you all have to go check out Laura's new book, The Dangerous Truth About Today's Marijuana. I've seen it on Amazon. We downloaded it on the Kindle. Are there any other places that people can go get your book?
I believe it's in Barnes & Noble and Books A Million, but Amazon is the one that seems to always have everything in stock now. So,
plus it's just so easy, a click of the button.
Just boop, click.
Yep.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and we also sell them here by the case, but that's if you want a bulk sale of 22 or more books. It's a little cheaper, and I sign them, but.
Well, thank you so much, Sabi and Jasmine, for coming on, for being our fiercest youth advocates that we have. For our listeners, of course, always visit our website for more information about cannabis and what those laws will look like in New Jersey when they come out at njprevent.com/positive youth. And thank you so much for listening in. We'll see you next time for more Youth Positively Speaking.